The American Civil War was the deadliest war in American history. It was the last war fought on American soil. There has been no war with more casualties. It was the only time our country had to split and fight one another. This war contained two sides, the North versus the South, Union versus Confederate, and the belief of having slaves versus the abolishment of slavery. Sometimes battle contained brother versus brother, father versus son, and always Union state versus Confederate state. The dilemma broke out due to the election of 1860. The election of 1860 had two main candidates, Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas. These two men ran against each other earlier for the governor of Illinois, where Douglas won. This time around, Lincoln took charge, winning a majority of the overall vote, and along with that dominated the Electoral College. He won every North state, but had no chance in any Southern state due to his opinions on slavery. After Lincoln became the 16th President of the United States, states began to secede from the Union, starting with South Carolina. All the slave states eventually seceded from the Union, and the Civil War finally broke out. The Civil War contained many great generals, such as Ulysses S. Grant of the Union, Robert E. Lee of the Confederate Army. Over the course of 4 years, some of the most significant battles took place, such as Fort Sumter, which began the war, the two battles of Bull Run, and one of the most significant battles and the turning point of the Civil War, the Battle of Gettysburg. Robert E. Lee led his troops across the Potomac River on June 24, 1863, for his second invasion of the North. He was leading his troops because he was going to reload on artillery, leave less pressure off Virginian farmers, and obtain more control of the war. Lee figured out about the Union Army moving toward them and was going to take action. On July 1, 1863, Lee's infantry met up with the Union cavalry in the town of Gettysburg. Lee directed one of his commanders to attack the Union Army, as they were in control, but held back. In doing so, the Union was able to set up with an artillery atop a hill, and if he had attacked, it might have changed the course of the war. Due to the success of Lee's army on day 1, he renewed battle on day 2. Lee then had even more success through great attacks on the flanks of the Union Army. At the end of the day, the Union generals met up at the headquarters with Meade, and they voted to stay another day for possible success. But at this point in the battle, it seemed that Lee's army was invincible. On day 3, the battle ruptured early at around 4:30 a.m. This continued throughout the whole day. Later on the final day of battle, General George Pickett was to attack the Union defense with a charge. Pickett was confronted with low ammo for his troops and then asked if he should carry out the mission and was nodded to go on to now what is known as the famous Pickett's Charge. This was unsuccessful due to the strength of the core of the Union Army. At the end of the night, Lee retreated back to Virginia for recruiting and to replenish items. This is now known as the turning point of the Civil War for the Union. These types of battles will carry on throughout the whole Civil War. The statistics of the Battle of Gettysburg resulted in the deadliest battle in the Civil War. The Confederate Army had 75,000 troops going into the battle, and 28,000 casualties overall. The Union had 90,000 troops and 23,000 casualties. The total amount of casualties resulted in 51,000 out of 165,000 men who fought in this battle. This battle contained nearly 1/8 of all casualties in the Civil War. The Battle of Gettysburg will always be remembered by people who study the Civil War because of its statistically and the turning point it caused in the Civil War. On November 16, 1863, Abraham Lincoln delivered the famous speech known as the Gettysburg Address. He addressed this at the opening of the cemetery honoring all the Union soldiers killed in this battle. This day would be Remembrance Day every year in Gettysburg forever. Gettysburg today is a national venue visited by many people who still are eager to figure out where some of the most historic men in our country died. The Battle of Gettysburg is a battle that will always go down as one of the most significant battles that has ever been fought on American soil.
As I went a walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway, saw below